Hi everyone, it's Ray with the education team from Swirlydoos Kit Club, and today I'm going to share with you a tutorial on how to incorporate cardboard onto your layout. So whether you're doing a layout or a project, you can incorporate this cardboard into your layout. We got this in the June kit, which is arriving on people's doorsteps this week, and somebody on the forum asked, hey, why did I get a piece of cardboard in my kit? And the short answer is that cardboard is awesome and it looks really good incorporated into our layouts or our projects, whatever we want to do. But what I wanted to share with you is how to get this piece off. We want this top layer off. We want it to look like this so that we can see the texture and actually know that it's a piece of cardboard. And the reason why you would want to have a 12 by 12 is that it's pretty much already cut down to size to the way that you want it to be. And I'll show you some different things that you can do with that just as a 12 by 12 piece, and also with some smaller pieces. So just to share with you my tip, I know other people say, you can put it under water, you can do whatever, but I like to spray it with water. And here's why. Because I find if I run this under the tap, that it welts, it warps, and I don't really like that. But if you hold it upright like this and you just spray it, the water is not going to get through onto the middle level. It will somewhat, but it won't be enough to warp it. So I really just saturate this, and I let it sit upright, of course, maybe for, 20 seconds or so. Now I can start pulling it up. And it's going to come up a lot easier than it would have otherwise if I just tried to pull it off. And I know it's not going to be perfect, but it's not going to be like this area right here. And if you did already try to pull it off and you have big pieces like that, it's not that big of a deal. You could take a paper piercer and pull it off, or spend a lot of time picking it apart. But this is just a nice and easy way to get this off. And it's just that simple, and you have this whole piece. Don't throw it away, you can do something else with that. I'm not going to show you in this video, but you can totally do something else with it. So now you have this piece of paper that is totally textured, and you don't have a lot of these spots that just didn't come off. There's a couple of little pieces, but that's good to add to character, and you can still see all of the texture. So this is really good for a 12 by 12 background. You could take a sheet of paper. Let me just get one real quick. It's not going to be from the kit because I have that put away because I'm going to camp. Let's see. Let's get something that you can see the difference between. Okay. So here's a sheet of 12 by 12. What you could do is you could alter this in some sort of way. You could put gesso, you could ink it, you could paint it, whatever you want, distress it. You could put a 12 by 12 piece of paper on here. You could distress the paper. You could make little rips so that you could see the peekaboo texture of the cardboard. Or you could cut this down maybe like 11.5 inches or even 11, and you could see the cardboard texture peeking out all around as one of the layers, which would still be really awesome. Or you could cut that part up. And I have this piece right here that you could just kind of take. It's one of the edges. You could take this, get rid of the towel, it's all dry now, and put it on top of here if you didn't want to use all of your cardboard, if you wanted to save some of it and do some other projects and not just use the 12 by 12 piece by itself. You could rip it up and put it like this, and you could put it in a couple of different places like that. Of course, treated, inked in some sort of way. But I'm going to show you one of my favorite techniques for cardboard, and that is to use gesso. So I'm going to be making a project that you'll see later using the June kit, using 3 little panels. These are 4 by 4. I've cut these up. And I'll show you how to cut this cardboard really easy too before we get started. And I have this extra piece of cardboard that I've been using. And if you wanted to cut it up to make a square or whatever kind of shape, with a rotary cutter it's really easy. Here's what I like about this, is that you can hold it down after you measure, push it back and forth a couple of times, and of course that wasn't enough, so I'll just take it around and do the other side. So if you do the front and the back, then it will come off very easily. And that's what I did to get my little panels here. So I have this. I'm going to distress it first. And now I will paint it with gesso. And I'm going to use a foam brush to put the gesso on there. I think that it does a pretty good job going through the lines. You could cover this completely if you wanted to, or you could have some of the craft texture or the craft color peeking out. You could just run it across really quick. And it looks like that. Now right here I pressed down, and that gives it just a little more dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in some random spots just so that I can get some of that gesso down inside of the grooves. And I have one that I've already painted and dried with a heat gun. And I'm going to use two different kinds of distress ink. I'm going to use frayed burlap first, and I'm going to use my blending foam. And I'm going to go over the top, and I'm not going to try to get into the grooves because I want that white to show. But I love frayed burlap. It's my favorite color. And now it went from being stark white to the frayed burlap color. And you can still see the white down in there. It's giving it lots of dimension. I'm going to use vintage photo around the edges. And I'm not picky about my blending foams. I have one for brown. Now I can set that aside. It's going to go with my project that I'm making later. I've got those all ready to go. And the next thing to show you is just if you wanted to just ink it, that looks great too. If you didn't want to have that white on there, if you have a darker layout that you're trying to achieve, you don't want to have those lighter colors in there, it's totally great just to go ahead and ink it. And I'm using vintage photo. It gives it that dark appeal. And in this case, it's actually kind of nice to have some of this extra on there. So that's one way you can do it too. And the last thing I wanted to show you, and I've done this in a video before, but this is one of my other favorite things to do with cardboard. I've painted this with gesso very deeply. I've dug down the gesso with the foam brush into the grooves for the most part. There's just a few little spots that you can't see. And while it was still wet, instead of using glass bead gel, because I'm lazy, I used some Pop micro beads, and you can get these micro beads anywhere. You don't have to have the Pop brand. There's a bunch of Martha Stewart ones if you go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something. And what I like to do is after it's all dried, and it has those little dots on there, and they're completely stuck on there, you can see they don't really need a lot of glass. You can hear a couple of them dropping, but it's not a lot. So what I like to do afterwards is I like to take some mists and give it some color. Some pretty patina. Some yellow daisy that's trying not to work and make me mad. And some coffee shop. Oh, that's a little too much. Dang. And then I can hit this with a heat gun. Okay, so that's pretty much dry. You can see that those beads took on the color of the mists. And one last thing is I'm going to take my blending tool again and color the edges. So these are the techniques that I like to do with cardboard, and we will get a conversation going on the forums in the techniques section, and you can tell us what you like to do with cardboard, because obviously there are many things to do with it. So go to swirlydoos.com and check that out. Thanks for watching.